You got me.
Thank you. Okay, this is my Science Fair 2021 Out of the Brine. Okay, some background information. My testable question for this Science Fair project is, what amount of salt is best for hatching brine shrimp? This is a practical use. Brine shrimp are sometimes used as baby fish food because they are rich in proteins because of their yolk sacs. Brine shrimp are also a species of microorganisms. They like to live in a salty solution. Salty solutions are most normally called brines. Hence the name brine shrimp. Brine shrimp needs certain water conditions. If the water is like not salty enough, they will hatch. If it's too salty, they won't hatch. So that's kind of like what is the sweet spot for the salt? Brine shrimp, if left to live, they can live up to 6 months, which I think is quite cool. Next slide. Background information 2. Brine shrimp equal total nightmare fuel. These are the brine shrimp that are most nutritionally valued. The male, see, he has large claspers. So much over there. And the females have large egg sacs. But, like, again, nightmare. Look at those little eggs. There's lots of them. This is my setup. For my setup, I have my air pump, which is over here, aquarium site. 1 teaspoon measuring for the eggs, 1 tablespoon measuring for the salt, and brine shrimp eggs in this small vial. We also have the bottles and a light, because if you don't have a light, you won't be able to tell if the brine shrimp are hatched. Which will be very hard to make your observations. Hypothesis. I think that the bottle with the least salt will hatch the shrimp fastest. Because if the salinity is too high, the salt could suck the moisture out of the eggs. Also, if the shrimp detect the water conditions are not correct, they may be like, I ain't gonna live here, and just kind of chill until they're dead. Another thing is, the salt could make the eggs too salty, and then the brine shrimp just die on the salt. The method. Your first step. Rinse out the bottles being used. I use 3, but you can use as many as is necessary. This is like one of the more basic brine shrimp hatchery methods. 2, drill a hole as big as the airline tubing in the cap. Then, step 3, then drill a smaller hole in the cap next to the larger hole so air can escape. 4, fill each bottle with 8 cups of water. 5, dissolve the salt in the respective bottles. 1 tablespoon in bottle 1, 2 tablespoons in bottle 2, 3 tablespoons in bottle 3. 6, place the eggs in the bottles. It's a very important thing to dissolve the salt thoroughly before putting the eggs into the bottles. 7, thread the airline tubing through the hole that you made specifically for it, not the smaller hole. Very important. Place the cap on the bottle. Wait 12 hours and check for any hatchlings. Brine shrimp eggs will hatch in a 12 to 32 hour span of time, so it's important to keep checking on it. But if your brine shrimp eggs have been stored in the fridge or freezer for a long period of time, they may take upwards of 48 hours to hatch and have been in the fridge for a little while. Wait 12 hours and check for any hatchlings. Record your observations. 10. Check the bottles every 2 hours from then on out. It is very important to start this project really early in the morning. I started this at 5:30 in the morning, so it was very easy to check after 12 hours and then on 2, so on and so on. You do have to get up early and stay up late, so. After the experiment, the shrimp, the collie, or the babies, were fed to mine and my mother's betta fish. Because betta fish are very flashy and we want to make them more flashy and improve their color. My equipment. You will need aquarium salt, brine shrimp eggs, an air pump, 3 2-liter bottles, airline tubing, measuring spoons, water, a three-way diverter for the airline tubing, I used drill and drill bits and a light sluice. Observations. Bottle 1 hatched first. The eggs in bottle 1 hatched first, not the bottle itself. Bottle 2 hatched second. Eggs in bottle 2 hatched second. The eggs in bottle 3 hatched third. So, if you notice a trend, the more salty it gets, the longer it takes for them to hatch. Most, if not all, of the eggs in bottle 1 hatched. Most of the eggs in bottle 2 hatched, but not a lot hatched in bottle 3. Most of them were just like, that is a summary of what the eggs were like. Charts and graph, I have this. After 12 hours, there was no hatchlings in bottle 2 and 3. And there was some in bottle 1. At 14 hours, there was more hatchlings in bottle 1, and still no hatchlings in bottle 2 or 3. At 16 hours, most of the hatchlings have hatched out of their eggs in bottle 1. Some hatchlings in bottle 2, I guess they're not as much and none at the same time. No hatchlings in bottle 3. And at 20 hours, most of the hatchlings, did I skip one? Okay, sorry. 18 hours, there was more hatchlings in bottle 2, and in bottle 3, there was still no hatchlings. At 20 hours, most of the hatchlings in bottle 2 had hatched, and some were hatching in bottle 3. And that's pretty much all bottle 3 did. Some hatched, a lot of the eggs stayed whole and just kind of like died, I'm guessing. We still fed them to fish. Yep. What would be next for me? If I were to continue this experiment, I would do the following. Use a 1-to-1 ratio of air pumps. The air currents in these bottles were, they weren't great, but there was still enough air to like move and circulate the eggs. Using more bottles with more variation in salt content. Do brine shrimp hatch with no salt? Will brine shrimp hatch if the water is so salty that it is drying out your finger? Seeing if the salinity of the water affects their lifespan as well. And also if the amount of aeration affects the hatch time or lifespan. If you give them air, will they hatch faster, or will they just suffocate to death when they hatch? Oh, that's like my last slide. Any questions? I forgot to add an any questions slide. Lena?